Good afternoon. My name is Art Trevathan. I'm a director here with SmartSoft, and what we're here to do today is to provide you with some basic training on the usage of the SmarteScript functional test tool. This video today will take you through the process of setting up your basic framework through the learning process. This, combined with other videos, can give you some basic training allowing you to use the product to test your applications.
Thank you for viewing this video on the use of SmarteScript. Today what we're going to talk about is going beyond your standard actions, not your learned objects, but we're going to be dealing with objects and ways of working with objects that go outside of the standard. Just click on the object or put text into it. Now, we have the basic interaction within SmarteScript, putting data into fields, clicking on objects. As we're creating these, not only is our scenario view being created, but we're also creating a script view. SmarteScript is based upon a variant of C++ that is our own, that we call SESL, or SmarteScript language. Now, you don't edit the test here at the script view. Let's go back to the grid, and I want to add some interaction. Now, once we sign on, we need to validate that that has happened appropriately. So what I can do is I can right-click on the parent window where I wish to create a command. Select the Add Command dialog, and then work through the wizard. Now, there are a number of different commands here, and there is some training required to understand what they all are. But for the purposes of our test, we're going to synchronize on an object, and that would be our sync object command. I'm going to use this to validate our login. So I will call the command validate login. Once I've done that, you'll also see as soon as I select the command, the attributes of that command are provided to me on the right-hand side. What I will do is I will give, in the case of a synchronization command, a maximum number of seconds to wait for an object. Then the window name that we're interacting with, and the object that we're waiting for. Now, this doesn't say wait 30 seconds. What this is saying is if that object shows up within 30 seconds, go ahead and move forward. If it breaks the 30-second barrier, list this as a failure. So if this object were incurred after 3 seconds, SmarteScript would pass the command and move on to the next step. Now, as I create this, when I click OK, it is inserted into the window in which we designated it to take place. I will then click and drag to move it to the right position because we want to validate that that withdraw funds object exists before we try to click on it. Another type of validation that we may make is, let's assume we have some data ahead of time. In our previous test, we left the account balance field blank. Now, what I would like to do is I'd like to extract some data from the screen. The way that we extract that data is I'll right-click on the parent window, select Add Command. The command that we want to use this time is going to be our info command, or information. I'm going to call this command Get Balance. I'll select the window in which the object exists, the object that we want to interrogate, in this case the account balance field, and then the attribute of that field that we want to capture. So this could be caption, it could be position on screen. In this case, we're going to use value. And we'll return the response to a system variable called generic string. When I click OK, the command is created in my tree view. Now, just as before, I have to be aware of order of execution. Based upon the test order that we have here, The logout would occur before attempting to get the balance. Now, when I click on the logout button, the account balance disappears from the screen and therefore would create an error. So I will click and drag the account balance collection command that I've created, get balance, to a more appropriate position within the test. I will then activate it within the grid. I've performed that task. Now I want a place to store that value. So I'll right click on the parent window, select Add Data Column, Output Column. The output column is a storage unit for data that's currently held in variables. So I will name this column Found Balance, and it will be populated with the value that's in the designated variable. Since we put our balance out to the generic string, we want to display the value that we find in the generic string. I'll click OK, and this will be created in my grid. For organization standpoint, I'm going to move it right after the get balance. It's not a required thing, but it helps from an organizational standpoint to know where your objects are. Now, I've pulled a balance off the screen and I'm storing it in my data. I may have something that I want to compare that to. Again, right-click on the parent window, select Add Data Column, Input Column. Now, the input column is also a variable. I will call this expected balance. It is going to be a string as opposed to a number or a Boolean yes or no answer. And then click OK. I now have an expected balance column. Again, for organization, I will move it right after the found balance item. Here, I'm going to go ahead and designate a value. I'm going to put in $400 as what I expect for my balance. This is a column in the grid, and I can bring data into this field in any number of ways. Please review our session on bringing data into a test. For the purposes of this video, we will only be using a single method, which is just typing it into the grid. I now have both a found and an expected balance, and quite frankly, this is automation. We want to compare those automatically as a part of our test. So I can right-click on the parent window, go back to my Add Data Column selection, and you'll see an item called Comparison Column. The Comparison column allows me to display real values as they're compare real values as they're displayed in the grid. So I will give that a name. I'm going to call it Compare Balance. And then I will select from the grid, from the drop-down, expected balance. Is it equal to found balance? When I click OK, what we're doing is we're creating the question. This is the reason that we're building the test. The reason we're building the test is that we want to compare those values. When you look at the execution video, you will see the result of performing this task. We're going to go ahead and call this particular session to a close. Thank you very much for your time. Please view our other videos.